Welcome to Evangelicalish, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the American Evangelical Church, deconstruction, faith, and God's love through it all. Join us for these episodes live on our Evangelicalish YouTube page on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 o'clock Pacific. Let's journey together.
Welcome into Evangelicalish. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm April. Are we live? Because I don't see it on the YouTube channel.
We are live, and it is up and running. I've got excellent connection, is what it says on YouTube right now.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. I'm dumb. I couldn't get it.
We should restart it.
We should restart it.
Most of the time, I'm saying that back from the back in the bedroom. But
oh, hey.
I feel so stupid. I was refreshing the YouTube channel, and everyone just ignore me.
Yeah. So anyway, man, good to see everybody tonight. Welcome back into Evangelicalish. Glad you guys are with us tonight, and special episode. No Paul tonight; he's out, and but tonight, my wife will be joining shortly, and Beecher's joining us tonight as well.
Yes,
Hello,
this
everyone.
is my husband. We thought it'd be fun to talk about some Christian dating, some marriage, all the fun stuff after our little impromptu awkward conversation last week.
And I just want to say I'm the biggest Evangelicalish fan, so I feel like I just won some competition where I get to be on the show, because usually I'm back in the bedroom watching and commenting. So
where you get to be
pretty stoked to be here.
Yeah, no, it's always good. I love how you're running production for us from the bedroom on text. That's pretty good. We can't hear them. You need to turn it up. Yeah, so good. But so anyway, man, glad you guys are joining us tonight. And as always, it is the best part of Wednesday, really the whole week. And season 2, episode 3, we are going to be talking about Christian dating. But so here's kind of the story. My wife was going to join us right at 8 o'clock, but we had some pipes burst in our house in the wall, which is so good. And so she had to take the kids to get baths and everything like that at a friend's house. So she's running a little bit late getting back. It's real life. Real life doesn't care about your podcast. That
is real life. Real life's like Evangelicalish. How about life-ish?
How about life-ish? Jeez. Yeah.
Stupid.
It was a fair joke. It's a fair joke. So anyway, but yeah, super, super excited about tonight. It's going to be fun. I think I heard the dog barking, so that's a good sign.
Ooh, that is a good sign.
But we want to start out tonight with our comment of the week, just to kind of give her a few minutes to show up. And I'm interested to get Beecher's takes on some of this, and hopefully Brianna when she shows up. But so just the two of us this week, but your hate comment of the week, April.
Yes. Hold on. I lost it. Come back,
hate comment.
Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Okay. So this guy commented. Is 2 comments, so I'll read them. He commented and then commented underneath on my American flag. I made a TikTok basically just cringing at a bunch of American flags inside a church. And this person, his screen name is Christians for America. And he commented, "Christian nationalism is the future, cross emoji, cross emoji. How's it going, lukewarm?"
Oh my gosh.
So I guess I'm a lukewarm Christian nationalist, although I would argue that I'm just a cold Christian nationalist, because I am not that at all.
Yeah.
So that was fun times.
Yeah, good times. Mine literally just came a few minutes ago, and so I put up a video earlier about a clip that's going around, and it's all over the place. And so somebody said, at least tag, that one girl, Rachel, if you're going to piggyback off her video, especially about misogyny.
Ooh. And Rachel's our friend.
Number 1. And number 2, I got it from IFB Sermon Clips, which is an account that I follow. And you should go follow, too, for ridiculous, outlandish IFB things, because they post the most egregious IFB things you've ever seen in your life. I've been following them on Twitter for a while, and then when they got a TikTok, it was an instant follow for me.
How do they get all these clips? Do people just send them to them, or are they live stream and they?
So I think some of it's live stream. I think some of them get sent. And then I had a conversation with the creator there. He says occasionally he'll just show up to these places when he knows these certain people are preaching and sit in the back and get a little iPhone video.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah, all of those videos are so cringe. You were also getting some hate on our evangelicalish page video this week for hating on your love is extravagant.
Yeah,
how dare you?
People were so mad about that, and I don't understand the anger behind it at all. Because it's super cringy. Like, and besides, it wasn't like I was like, the Lord is terrible and we must never sing a worship song again. It was like, let's just sing good worship songs that feel like they're actually about Jesus, not like these ridiculously cringy, like over-sexualized worship songs, you know? And people are like, well, but remember, we're the bride of Christ. And I'm like, I don't think.
Oh, I know. That is such a cringe, like, what's the word? Defense for it, because one, we're saying this is too sexual, let's not sing it, and they're like, well, the Bible says we're the bride, like literally the bride of Christ. Like, not in that way, bro. Stop trying to sexualize your relationship with Jesus. It's super weird. But anyway,
yeah, it's definitely super weird. And so I mean, it's just, I don't understand why people were so bent out of shape about it. I don't really understand, like, and besides,
I was just gonna say, we get more people bent out of shape, I feel like, on evangelicalish than our personal ones, because I don't think the algorithm has fully figured out what evangelicalish yet. Yeah. So we still get a lot of the like conservative Christians.
Well, and I guess my concern is like when I think about it, I'm like, it's not even like a major issue. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not. Like, we were clearly, like, being very lighthearted about that conversation. Why do people have to get so serious? Like, I don't understand the anger behind that. Like, when it's just like, oh, yeah, that is a little bit weird, huh? Ha, ha, ha. Like, even if you don't think it's that funny, just laugh it off and move on. No, you got to get, like, all super biblical. Well, have you read Song of Solomon? Have you?
Right. And so Song of Solomon is about a woman who's about ready to get married.
Yes.
And I saw all these people that are like, oh no, that's an allegory of us and Jesus. And I've never read it like that. Song of Solomon is, I think, one of only 2 books in the Bible that actually doesn't mention God at all.
Yeah, well, and Whitley says, you know, you just got to sing about that intoxicating fragrance in the secret place.
Oh my gosh. And then Manda said being sexual is bad unless it's Christ and his quote unquote bride. Worst argument ever. Yes, it is a terrible.
Yeah, it's a
But
bad
Song
argument.
of Solomon, bro. Theo bros everywhere.
Theo
Clay
bros
said.
everywhere. Yeah.
You know what else is awkward? Beecher sitting here, not saying anything. We're just talking.
I've got tea. I'm just enjoying this. I for a second I forget I'm on, and I'm just like enjoying the episode. I'm like, oh, I can't be seen.
He's about to start typing in the chat.
Yeah, I'm about to
He's start typing in the chat. That's really good. Yeah, he just seemed feverishly like the cat meme or whatever, the GIF. Anyway, pretty funny stuff. But yeah, it was kind of a ridiculous week on TikTok across the board. I just you know. I don't know. People are going to be what they're going to be, I guess.
Yes, people are special. I feel like it's going to be I feel weird that I'm going to be meeting your wife for the first time live on air.
Live on air.
Like,
yeah.
Actually, I'll be meeting her for the first time with all of these other people.
Yeah, we didn't intend to do it that way, but guess what, kids? It's happening. So, anyway, well, I tell you what, let's run to a quick mid-roll. And on the other side, I think she's going to be around. So anyway, off we go. It's so good. This has got me so like thrown off because of all this stuff.
Noelle
like,
in the chat said Beecher is a whole mood.
Yeah.
And then Molly said Beecher's in a trance for a bit. Yeah, Beecher's just cruising. He's on cruise control.
It's so.
I just want a front row seat. I don't really
in the beginning, he was like, "Should I even be here? Brianna's not here. Like, we're supposed to have our spouses. So who's the third wheel? Is it Beecher or is it Jeremy?" Or me. I guess y'all could be having a bromance, and I could be.
Yeah, Jeremy and I are hanging out.
That's
April's the one that's getting in the way.
The fact that you think we don't already hang out is ridiculous.
Oh,
yeah,
we hang out
all the time. Yeah. on Kenneth Copeland's private jet. I just fly out there to see Beecher. It's a good time.
K-Cope.
Yeah,
You don't want to fly economy because
no,
that's just a tube of a
it's
demon.
a long tube filled with demons is what that is. Ain't nobody got time for that. So, all right. Well, let's run to a quick break. On the other side, we're going to talk a little bit about Christian dating, and man, it's going to be really fascinating. I know that for sure. So I'm excited to get into it. All right, you're listening to Evangelical-ish. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Are you loving Evangelical-ish? Follow us to catch all the latest content and encouragement. You can check us out on TikTok by following @Evangelical-ish or subscribe on YouTube by searching Evangelical-ish. That's Evangelical with an ISH. And don't forget to catch our live streams each and every single Wednesday night on YouTube at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 Pacific. And now, back to the Evangelical-ish podcast. Welcome back into Evangelical-ish. I'm Jeremy. Very good. All right, so we decided to redo the intros because we did comment of the week. We did an awkward long break in the middle. It's all good, but I found my wife. And we'll get back into that. We'll get into that, how that process works as well, finding your wife. But anyway, this is Brianna. Brianna's my wife. She's a nurse, and super excited to have her on with us tonight for sure. Oh, boy. This is so good. I love it.
Am I muted still?
No, you're not anymore.
Okay, should we start that
now.
again?
Yeah, let's do it.
Third time's a charm.
Time's
Like a brand new intro. Let's just start it over.
This water
This is a
thing
night.
has got me all thrown off, and now the dog is like being ridiculous. Anyway, welcome into Evangelical-ish. I'm Jeremy.
I'm April.
And we've got our spouses with us. We're going to talk about dating. It's going to be a fascinating conversation and just kind of how that process goes. And so for those of you who are joining and like, what in the world is going on? Be perfectly honest. We had pipes burst in our walls. We had to shut our water off. My wife had to take the kids somewhere else to get bathed. And apparently our son was being a peach. So good. But anyway, and we are the Colemans, so.
Yes, and then did we say Beecher? This is my spouse, my husband, Beecher.
who is a whole mood, apparently.
Yes, he's a whole mood. He was third wheeling it while we waited on you, Brianna. So he's happy that you're here.
Yes, you're saving me. Welcome, Brianna.
Yeah. So anyway, so tonight's topic, obviously, kind of one that's going to be fun with Paul out. We decided to bring our spouses in to kind of talk about the Christian dating culture and exactly what all that is.
Yeah, so I made a TikTok about this earlier on our Evangelical-ish page. If you're not following us on TikTok, you should follow us at Evangelical-ish. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast platforms, just BT Dubs.
Yes.
Okay, so there is this new Christian dating site that I don't think it's launched yet. They're currently in the funding phase for it, but it's called Dominion Dating. And with this dating site, it's supposed to be a place that gets rid of all the quote feminist and soy boys, which if you don't know what a soy boy is, that's like a insult to men that are just not super masculine.
So is that like instead of like the cow milk version of men, it's the soy milk version of men? Is that
yeah,
what they're
that's
trying
actually
to
where
say?
it comes from, because they don't like soy, and they don't like vegans or vegetarians. Like all of that would be a soy boy. I guess.
Oh my gosh.
So
It's ridiculous.
yeah, so Dominion dating. So I don't know if they named that before or after Dominion voter boxes, but whatever. So this whole idea is that they say Christian dating apps on other sites have too many feminists and progressive Christians and soy boys. So this the soy boys is a funny term. So this website is supposed to be for members who are serious about marriage, like no casual dating, like we are serious about marriage. So they do a thorough screening process where you have to get a pastoral referral from a biblically sound doctrine church.
Yeah, but how do they define that though? Do they lay that out?
I actually was reading they lay it out in their membership agreement pretty much of like what you agree to. So that's the other thing. One, you have to have a pastoral reference. So your pastor, can you just imagine for a second going to your pastor and be like, can you write me a letter of
reference for online dating?
For my dating website.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so cringe. But okay, so the members agreement, it's all on their website. You have to agree. It said, here's one of the points. We affirm male headship as normative in the spheres of family, church, civil governance, and society at large, believing that God has endowed men with real limited authority to govern well for the good of mankind and the glory of God.
Endowed? They
yes,
use the word
endowed in there. God has endowed men.
You've read that before, and I'm just now hearing civil governments.
Yes.
Like
so also male can only be leaders in civil governments too, and society at large.
Oh, so like
this is not just like in the home. This is like you have to believe in male leadership. This is like seriously Handmaid's Tale stuff.
I love that show.
Me too. I know the new episode came out today and I haven't watched it yet.
Oh,
who needs to watch it when you got Dominion dating?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, the fourth point though.
It's right here. It's happening.
Oh, I know.
Like, for
it
real.
seriously is. It feels like they wrote this in Gilead.
Yeah.
Gilead.
We're moving to Canada, babe.
I know we got to go now. The fourth point is we affirm God's normative plan for women to exercise dominion in the home as homemaker and helpmate in glad submission to a husband. We recognize the necessity at times for women to seek employment outside the home, but reject careerism as normative for women.
What in the world? What century is this?
Seriously.
I don't know.
These people are insane. But so this is not the only site like this, by the way. So there is IFB, Independent Fundamental Baptist, IFBsingles.com. Right. And they are the exact same. And you have to have a letter from the pastor and like all this ridiculous stuff. And it's like, I have to have my pastor's permission to date. Men on that site, men have to agree to have a job that will sustain his wife, and the wife has to agree to be called to stay home.
I'm out.
Yes. Yes. And it says you commit that you are in a local evangelical church that upholds biblical marriage and sexuality for at least 3 months prior to joining. And then
You have 90 days.
I guess that'll make it into the pastoral letter. And then it says, we commit to pursuing sexual purity as we prepare for marriage. This includes abstaining from acts of fornication, watching pornography, dressing sensually or immodestly, and entertaining lustful thoughts. So no shoulder showing, I bet. I bet they got the
no
three
shoulder
finger
show.
rule.
Yeah. The 3-finger rule. Yeah, the dollar bill for the pants. Well, no, the pants, the shorts probably have to be down past the knee, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't even know. But so they released a video.
Or the dress, because I'm sure they don't allow, pants.
Oh, yeah. So they released a video last week that went kind of viral. So they got a lot of pushback for obvious reasons because, like, what the crap. And so the owner or the founder of the blog the founder of the dating site wrote a blog in response to all of this backlash and hate, and doubled down and said one of the lines in there was that men are under attack. That's like an actual quote. And that men need to repent from being too effeminate.
Yeah, but I mean, what does that even mean?
I don't know. I saw one guy on is it the Gospel Coalition? I don't know. The one that what's the one? No, Desiring God.
Okay.
Desiring God.
John Piper.
John Piper.
Mm.
It wasn't John Piper didn't write this, but another guy wrote it on how wearing pink as a man is sinful because it's too effeminate. But the funny thing is the guy who wrote it totally had a picture with a pink bow tie on.
Salmon.
So.
It was probably salmon.
It was salmon.
Salmon.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of fascinating. I guess I don't know. Speaking from myself, kind of looking at this, I have always desired for Brianna to be able to follow the calling that God has laid on her heart, to do the things she feels like she's led to do, to chase after the things that she wants to chase after. And that means career-wise, family-wise, life-wise, giving her just, I mean, in our marriage, she is her own person and has her own dreams and has her own ambitions. And it's not my job to tell her that she needs to stay at home barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. Like, that is so crazy to me that mentality still exists.
Yeah, no, it's the sad part though to me. I mean, it's obviously sad, misogyny, all that stuff, but you expect that from certain men. The sad part to me is that there are going to be women who have internalized this misogyny and subservient ideology that are going to sign up for this.
Yes.
Like, and I even saw, I went to their Twitter page, I was curious, and I saw women, although the woman looked like the founder's wife, but whatever. She was replying to be like, we're just following biblical marriage and what biblical womanhood is, and y'all are mad that we're following the Bible. Like, do people not realize that the Bible is thousands of years old? Like, was written in a time where women weren't educated, couldn't vote, like they were treated differently. Like, literally, your family would sell the woman for a dowry to be married. Like, we don't do that anymore.
No, and we, we were just talking about that, I guess, this weekend when we saw the video of Tammy Goddard talking about how David and Bathsheba was, that affair was Bathsheba's fault for bathing herself immodestly.
Bathing? How do you bathe modestly? I feel like everyone in the world would fail.
Because she should have, her excuse was, this is from the video directly, she should have gone into the house and put a curtain up so no one could see her. And that it is her fault that she was out on the roof in public, what she said was public, even though it's her house on the roof, and that David saw her there, that she caused him to lust and stumble. Therefore, if she could have, her words were, she could have changed the course of history if she had practiced modesty.
Well, yeah, but Jesus also came from that line, didn't he? So, yeah, changes the course of history. Like, Jesus never comes to earth. Like, there is no Christianity change the course. Like
we would have been screwed.
Like, what?
Unless you're that guy from Arrested Development. He was a never nude. Did you ever watch Arrested Development? He would literally shower in his little blue jean shorts. Sorry.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, that logic does not compute. I mean, is it a child's fault for being molested as well with that logic? I mean, that's where my mind was going. Like, how in the world, why do we blame women for everything?
Well, and that's a mark on our culture, I think, is that we have chosen to blame women for everything. And I mean, she asked, it's like blaming, it's the same mindset as blaming the child for being molested. It's the same mindset as blaming a woman for being raped because of what she's wearing. And that in and of itself is a problem with the systemic misogyny that exists inside of our culture still to this day. And that stuff pours itself into the Christian dating world. And then people try to cover the misogyny up with like, well, this is what the Bible says.
And I think, I mean, growing up, everybody's like, oh, boys will be boys. And that's just how guys are wired. And it's like you grow up hearing that guys, or you're basically taught that guys have a free pass. I mean, like, oh, that's just the way they are. And the women should know. And it's like, how about people just be people? And we forget the whole boys and girls, and boys can do this and girls can't. And it's all of these lines that we draw that make gender have an excuse to perform in a stereotypical bad manner. And because we've heard it since we were 6, we're like, yeah, that's just the way it is.
It also gives cover for men who are, who can commit assaults and are misogynistic, and they use that as an excuse to pressure women, to assault women. And like, even that one kid, I don't remember his name, he was like a swim
Brock
team or whatever. Yes, Brock. Like, he raped that girl and like had no remorse, was just like, oh, like just nothing.
Just the heat of the moment.
Yeah. Like, oh, well, what was I supposed to do?
Yeah.
There was a naked woman. Like, I can't control myself. Like, no, yes, you can. Or you're a pig.
But what is this saying about men? Let me ask this question to the, to the group here. What does it say about men that we have consistent, and I say we, I don't think Beecher and I are this way, hopefully. But like, what does it say about men when we have to continue to put stipulations on culture because we can't, it says we can't control ourselves, right? Like, it's saying you have to dress a certain way because I can't be trusted.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, it's part of the whole purity culture thing too. It's all interconnected, because that's why you have Ravi Zacharias telling this woman, all of his sexual, conquests, whatever you want to call them, victims, telling them like, oh no, like God wants you to do this for me as a reward for me. And then like not being able, like them putting them in that position with this authority and making it biblical in a way. It's disgusting.
Well, and that has ultimately been the issue, I think, with culture in general, and with that old school mentality of that, and it's something that I was talking about, when the whole thing came out with Josh Duggar. He was raised in a culture that taught him that, number one, his sin wasn't as offensive as a woman's sin, and that it was just him exploring. Like, they even talked about, like, when he was younger and he was molesting his younger sisters, that he was told, well, you probably shouldn't do that, but we understand that you're interested, or you're intrigued. And so you're just, you're exploring or whatever. And so his sin and his disgusting molestation of his sisters was written off as boys will be boys.
And they didn't get him actual psychological help that he needed. He didn't go see a counselor. He went to biblical pastors that were supposed to counsel him. But I wish people would actually go seek licensed counselors and therapists for issues. And because there's still a stigma in a lot of, especially conservative evangelicals, but in a lot of Christian circles, that, oh, mental issues are of the devil. Like, you just need to have more faith and da-da-da-da. When no, like, you go to the doctor when you're sick, you go to a therapist. And honestly, everyone needs to go to a therapist. We both go see counselors.
I've been seeing a counselor for 8 years. So I was on this bandwagon even before April. So
true. When we first started dating, he was like, you should go to counseling. And I was like, I don't need to go to counseling. I don't have any issues.
At that point, I was going to counseling. I'm like, hey, what do you say to that?
I clearly had issues.
Like, what? It was one of our earlier fights in our relationship.
Just pray, Beecher. Just pray.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. So no, I love my counselor's amazing, and I've been going to them for 8 years. So I'm a big proponent of that.
Yeah, and obviously it's been no secret. I've talked a lot about that on my platform, being really, really a vocal fan of not just counseling, but all sorts of mental health support, including, listen, I prayed to the Lord and he gave me Zoloft,
yes.
And it's a game changer. But God creates medical professionals, right? God creates the brains and the science through those people. to give us those things. And so it's ridiculous to me that the church has fought so hard back against growth and advancement that, truth be told, is given to us by God. I kind of weigh in on that because you see that a lot in your field, right?
Absolutely. I mean, stress is a symptom of itself that has all kinds of psychological effects. And are we not living in stressful times? I mean, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, the closer we get to the end of days, it's only going to get worse. And people are, I mean, look at all the mental health issues that are running rampant now. I mean, suicide is killing more people than COVID, you know, or, you know, the numbers are definitely competitive.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, these people who have been isolated, you know, their brains are not, you know, handling the stress well, or the isolation or depression. I mean, all that stuff is real. And even though we can't see it, you know, it's a symptom like anything, like an illness, you know, it's just like having a bug or a virus, you know, but, yeah. And sometimes it's a process to get the right medications. You know, one of the side effects of antidepressants is suicide. You know, it's messing with the chemicals in your brain, you know, and the whole purpose of giving you those chemicals is to try to, you know, fix that balance that has been thrown off by the stress and the other variables coming, you know, at people right now. And, you know, but it's a process, and people need to trust the process. And I think that counselors and doctors really do want to help people. And, you know, it's heartbreaking when you see people come into the hospital for, you know, suicidal ideations or suicide attempts, even homicide attempts, same thing. You know, the dopamine and the, you know, their chemicals in your brain are just, they're off, something's wrong. But we don't want to, you know, the more we shove that under a rock, the worse the problem is going to get.
Yeah. We actually had a friend, we had done a testimony video at a church that we used to work for. And someone had messaged me who we did a video with this person who had got healing. It was like a testimony video that he was healed of PTSD. And at the time he thought that he was healed from it. And then years have gone by and realized that he wasn't. And I feel like the church is so quick to like find these like really amazing healing stories, especially with mental health, and like, see, all you needed was Jesus. And then they apply that to everyone, like, see, but then a lot of the times it ends up, it didn't really go away. Maybe they're just in a really good season and it was fine, you know, but.
And the problem with that too is like the story that we told, the testimony that we told of the guy healed from PTSD, it adds pressure to them that they can't backslide. They can't have a bad day. They can't, and if they do, they sure can't tell the church, because now they've played their video in front of, you know, we had a church of about 4,000 people, and it played in front of 4,000 people. They're known as the PTSD healed guy. And so there's no space. And so I think that's an issue that is even broader, is the whole, like, tell your testimony and now I'm saved. It doesn't leave any room for future saving. But I mean, I was saved at 7. I was saved at 7. I mean, I've got my whole life. There are seasons in my life that I needed help, but the church doesn't feel like a safe place because I've already been saved, so I can't need saving again. And I think that, especially, I mean, I don't know, obviously for girls, but for guys, that's a common thing of, you know, I'm a Christian and I've been saved and here's my testimony and I've got it all together. And you know, there's really no room to have conversations about weakness or falling backwards.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, just kind of to piggytail off that, like, you absolutely need God in your life to help you, you know, motivate you to bear, you know, the fruit, so to speak, of God's love. And, you know, we can't make good choices on our own. That's not our nature. Our nature is to mess stuff up. You know, our nature is to throw the clothes on the floor, so to speak. But in every aspect of life, you know, it takes time and effort to be organized, to make good decisions, to make the right decision, to make ethical decisions. It takes practice, and it takes, you know, outside influences. And so, you know, like your PTSD guy, that's fantastic that he's in a place where he feels whole and he feels healthy. But, you know, it's so easy to get pulled back into depression, or to be simply triggered walking down the street and you hear a car backfire, and to be triggered all over again and feel scared. I mean, it is just like an alcoholic, you know, God can absolutely save an alcoholic. And when they come to that point where they're ready to turn their life around, that's great. But if they keep walking back into the bar, they have to make those life choices continuously, to stay healthy. So yeah, it's not just a one and done, like you said. It's a process.
Well, and I think to the point though is that there's got to be room for grace, right? And there's got to be room for just because I'm healed today doesn't mean I'm healed tomorrow. And that was a big thing that I had to be okay with. So I went through a season where I was on medication. I was going to counseling, and then I came out of that season where I was feeling better. And so I slowly stepped off of my medication, and I felt good through that season without it. But then as stress got heavier and life got heavier, I went back into a season where I needed it recently. And I feel better now that I'm on it. I've been on it for about 4 or 5 weeks, which is kind of that magic area where it's like, how are you doing? And I'm feeling great. And, and then also like a really awesome side note to that is that I also like when people are down on me or frustrated at me about stuff, I'm such a people pleaser person usually that it's like I'm all in my head about it. But man, on meds, I'm like, man, that sucks for you, which is so good.
We don't internalize it near as much.
No, I don't. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
I care, but it's just I don't take it as serious. And that was something that I found that was happening is not only was our lives super stressful with everything that we've got going on, but as TikTok expanded and things got busier, I started internalizing comments and the hateful stuff that people were doing. And that was becoming part of me. And I was wearing that around my house. And I don't need to be wearing TikTok around the house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's not great. And so, you're just going to go through seasons. And why have they traditionally been a place where they say, once you're healed, and then they don't give any space, very similar story to the guy that, you're talking about with PTSD. I know a guy in a similar situation who did fall back into his addictions and stuff he had gone through, the process of recovery and come out of drugs and alcohol. And then on the backside of that, all these stories and these write-ups and all this stuff. Well, he did backslide and go and fall back into that world. And then the biggest thing that he said coming out of that is, I didn't feel like I could tell anybody because everybody thought I was fixed.
Right.
And I mean, so I teach film at a Christian university now, but I worked at a church for 4 years, full-time for a year. And I shot so many testimony videos and had to, we're in the media creation aspect. And there were so many pitch meetings of who are we gonna find and who are we gonna record. And I knew by a year into it, I knew the formula. I was like, okay, it needs to go like this, needs to go like this. They have to have a really a small transformational moment, but needs to lead to big change. And we got to show a lot of images that are completely opposite from the earlier ones and show that they're all fixed and everything's great. And if a narrative, and if I call exactly, and if I called one of the people we were thinking about doing the story on and their story didn't fit, I was like, okay, no, you're not getting a video. No, sorry, we're going a different direction. And what that does is there are stories of marriages that were falling apart coming to a church and they get better. And maybe they are really just wonderful from there. But there's also a lot of stories of marriages that think they're wonderful and then they fall back into it. And what I realized is not that I actually still don't feel like there's necessarily a problem with putting out these stories that I put out. I think the problem is that we are only putting out those stories.
Yes.
And what it creates is a culture of we're all seeing everyone healed, everyone fixed, everyone no longer have any problems. And you don't hear about anything else. And so you feel that pressure on yourself. Okay, well, I've been saved. I have to be fixed. They were fixed. And then they're thinking, oh, shoot, I just backslid or fell back into whatever, but I can't tell anybody because everyone's basing their faith off of my story. And so what it creates is these fake relationships in church for people that are saying they're healed, and we feel because we think they are that we are also, and it just creates this front that you have even in small group, even in church, even in the lobby, and it pervades everything.
I want to see the testimony like Jeremy of saying that you got on Zoloft and now you're doing better, where you're thanking God for medication.
Well, but yes, I mean, I feel like I could just do a commercial for Zoloft. directed
We are
it.
not being paid by Zoloft.
Yeah, not a sponsor, but they could be. They sort of are. But I think it's the Disney princess culture in the sense that like we want every story when somebody comes out of that addiction, they come out of that depression, they come out of that, whatever it is that they're facing, that we want that to be the end of the story. We want that to be when we close the cover and go, oh, that was so good. But the problem is too many times it's the end of a paragraph. Sometimes it's not even the end of a chapter. And there's still more to the story. As long as we are alive, heart beating, breathing, there's still more to the story, and there's still other struggles to face. And I think we just need some reality in that. So I tell you what, April, I feel like this was a really good conversation, but we do maybe want to circle back to dating.
I know. I was just going to say, like, I love that we're talking about mental health. This is like totally not the plan. We got our spouses here.
Brianna, what is your profession? You sounded like you knew a lot about.
I'm a nurse. I'm a registered nurse.
Okay, that's awesome. Yes. Love it.
Yeah, so
that's how we go there. We have a professional on, so
yeah. So somebody was asking, I think earlier in the chat, if you were a counselor.
I'm not.
Yeah, so she's a nurse, nursing professor at a local Christian university here as well. So 2 professors, and then April and I. But actually, I don't know. You adjunct, don't you, April?
I did. I didn't like it.
I got not for me.
I got too anxious and people didn't turn stuff in. I was like, I'm gonna have to fail them. I couldn't handle it.
I can't see that at all, April. Just kidding.
Yeah.
April's like, did you finish the thing yet?
Oh, I know. I was an annoying professor. I was like, and I gave so much time. She was like, you can still turn it in. And then I'm like, teacher, I'm going to have to fail them. I gave them like 100 times, but they're still not doing it.
Yeah, I've definitely had those conversations with her for sure. But yeah, and so anyway, super proud of my wife Brianna. Just finished her master's this week, and so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So we're super excited about that. But she's doing some really great things. But yes, definitely a medical professional and somebody. I mean, in your role, you do see a lot of mental health.
I primarily work trauma ICU, so I mean, I just kind of see the worst of the worst in that aspect of mental health and. Things that families aren't expecting, or this is my brother, I thought everything was fine and never thought he would do something like this, that kind of story over and over. And especially this last 6 months, it's been very repetitive. I mean, in a sense. And
so
it's a lot easier to be friends with people when they're healthy and when they're normal and when when they give back. But when they're needy and when they're
hurting and broken,
it's hard to be friends with people. It's like you're 99 and you're 1. If you're 99 sheep are good, it's really easy to just kick back and drink your lemonade and watch your sheep. But when that one keeps running off and it keeps running off again and again and again, and you're like,
so true.
If you fall in a canyon, I swear I'm not
God.
getting you out. But it's just I got on my own little rabbit trail there.
No, love it. Speaking of rabbit trails, do you want to do a mid-roll and then we'll come back and talk about the actual topic at hand?
I think that would be a great segue to get it all the way back over here.
Yeah, so around.
All right. So let's run to a quick break. On the other side, we're going to talk about Christian dating. So, but hey, that was a good conversation anyway.
That was.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll be right back in just a minute. Are you loving Evangelical-ish? Follow us to catch all the latest content and encouragement. You can check us out on TikTok by following @Evangelical-ish or subscribe on YouTube by searching Evangelical-ish. That's Evangelical with an ISH. And don't forget to catch our live streams each and every single Wednesday night on YouTube at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 Pacific. And now, back to the Evangelical-ish podcast. Welcome back into Evangelical-ish, and I am going to unmute Beecher and April because, I should do that when we come in and out of breaks. So anyway, good to see everybody tonight. Glad you guys are with us. We do miss Paul for sure tonight. Little quick side note, maybe a little dangling carrot for next week. We're going to talk about one of the most ridiculous comments we have ever gotten on TikTok that was directed at all three of us.
Oh,
It was on Evangelicalish.
On
We don't usually read the hate comments.
But
from
Paul has to be here for it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why we're not doing it this week.
Paul
so maybe
absolutely has to be here.
we honestly need to make a video about it too.
Your fans
Sidebar.
might mine the Evangelicalish page to find this comment, by the way.
Go find it.
They will definitely do that. I have learned some things about our faithful followers, and they do what TikTok does best sometimes, and that is just find people and remind people not to be stupid. So that's what I love about our friends on TikTok.
Yes, we've got little armies.
Little
of people
armies.
that are like, no, you don't say that to my friend April.
I had a friend ask me one time, he was like, so what's it like running a cult? Like there's just like all these people who are just like, you're like, go get them. And they're like, yeah.
We are not a cult, Jeremy.
No, I know.
We are the anti-cults.
We're the anti-cults. Yeah, we are that for sure. All right, so circling back, that was definitely a fun conversation for sure, and I think needed right in our culture right now for sure.
We should definitely designate a future episode to just mental health, and maybe we can bring on like a mental health professional too.
Yeah, I think Clay would be a good one. Who's always in every Wednesday night, and a guy that does is a therapist. So.
I'm only laughing because we were about to start talking about mental health again, and we need to talk about Christian dating and Christian marriage.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to tell a couple of stories real quick just to jump in about Christian dating. So Beecher and I met in grad school. I was dating someone else when we met. That's a different story.
Solid.
He invited my then boyfriend to like stay with him, and they ran a 5K. It was super weird.
I beat him in a 5K.
Yes.
Get the story correct.
Weird flex, but cool.
I know. See, he's not a soy boy. He's like, muscles.
He was a fireman, and I beat him in a 5K.
Yeah,
That's how I won her heart.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So, okay, talk about misogyny. Just
Part of this.
Okay, anyway.
That's how I saved her. Golly.
Oh my gosh. No, he did save me from these boys, men, whatever. So before him, I dated two guys who were like obsessed with this idea of protecting me. And one of the guys wrote a poem about how God told him that I was supposed to be his wife. And it was a long poem. And he's like, this is God's will. I know that God has you for me. And super cringe. And I was like, so I was like going through immense grief because my dad had just died. So I was like, maybe God just hasn't told me that yet. But, maybe I just can't hear God because I'm grieving. No, God didn't tell me that. So, and then another time I got broken up with, Christian dating was so frustrating because I feel like you either had like the super guy, like the guys that were just super biblical and overly spiritual and just had hyper spirituality on everything. And then you had the other guys who were like not really Christian. Like they were Christian in name, but still like did all the same pressure sexually as like everybody else. Anyway, this guy broke up with me once. The most that we ever did was hold hands in a prayer meeting.
That's amazing.
And this guy broke up with me because Satan was using me to distract him from his calling.
What?
All we did was hold hands in prayer.
Again.
And Satan was using me.
Again.
Serious hand holding.
Yeah, no kidding. Don't hold April's hand.
It wasn't even interlocked.
It
was
was
like the lame Fred way.
It was the pancake, not the
Yeah.
I mean, was
yeah.
everybody clothed in the prayer meeting? Was there something else going on?
Yeah,
fully clothed.
Oh my goodness.
7 minutes in prayer meeting. Yeah, no.
We need some counseling. That one. We need to see a counselor.
Did you experience some of that same stuff? I mean, I know that it was you definitely had some weird like experiences before we met.
I wouldn't really have considered myself like a dater. I didn't casually date. I did go on a couple of dates, like one time with one person and then another one time with another person, and I was like, no thanks. So I just didn't really get caught up in a lot of that. I was really busy. I've always been kind of a busy person with my own hobbies and things going on.
Well, y'all started dating when you were in high school, right?
So we met at the end of my senior year.
Yeah.
So I really didn't date in high school or junior high. I mean, I just didn't really do any of that kind of stuff. And I went on one date with one guy, and the whole thing was super awkward. And I felt like kind of attacked like, stop. Like, you're too clove. I mean, but he seriously was just like,
oh, he's a close talker.
Yeah, like, oh, it's just, oh. I was like, oh, no.
I'm gonna need to go.
And I was like, okay, that was something. Bye. And we never did anything else. And then I had another guy that wanted to go out on a date, but we never did. But he told everybody we were sleeping together, and so I was like, well, okay.
That's kind.
Well, okay.
Yeah. You won't go on a date with me? That's fine. Tell everybody we had sex.
Yeah, that's basically what happened, and then I had to leave my job because it was just too much. So, I mean, I just kind of stayed away from all of that. There was a lot of red flags, and
yes,
so,
yeah.
I met Jeremy, and like, kind of started off hanging out as friends, and I feel like he did kind of pursue me. Not aggressively. I never felt like I was being, preyed upon like some of the other people.
That's good.
But
gotcha.
He was very friendly, and we talked a lot about like the future and planning, and we're gonna travel, and we're gonna do like all the stuff that I really liked and enjoyed. And I never felt like I was gonna be stuck. Like if I married him, that we were just gonna be stuck in some lifeless marriage where we start having babies and there's no life, after marriage, and we work the same job for 25 years. Like, that's not what either of us were interested in. So I feel like we just clicked on that level. I mean, nothing sexual about it, until later on in our relationship, of course. But it's just the more we start talking about marriage and everything, we definitely, continued down that path. But it definitely started with a friendship and just aligning our goals and our values together. And my parents weren't super thrilled at the time.
No, they were not.
Yeah.
No, they were not.
They didn't really want me to go away to college. I had actually toured Lee University because I was like, I'm going to go away. I'm going to solve the world's problems, and I had all these goals that just didn't involve me staying at my parents' house, anything but staying there. And they were great. I love my parents, but they were very like mundane, routine. Same breakfast for 20 years, same Friday night.
So cute.
I mean, it took
Is
probably.
I don't know.
They're happy, it works for them, but I was like, I've got to get out of here. But they're very supportive of what we do and the things that we stand for. But what was the story? Where are we starting with all this?
Well, I think it's
Rabbit
just
trail.
I think it's just a conversation about kind of Christian dating in general, but the thing that
they never pushed me to date, they kind of were like, you don't need that, and so that wasn't ever really a big pressure. We did have like the dating talk in church several times through our youth group, like, here, where's your purity ring? Keep that sucker on. Don't you take that off, because then we know what happened, and kind of got a bunch of that speech. And I don't know, I just
how much did the purity culture / Joshua Harris principle. And April, this is a good question for you as well. How much of that affected not only your dating life, but then also your married life?
Oh, like talking about blaming women for getting raped. I will admit, that was my thought process for a long time in school. Like, if I better be on my best behavior or I'm going to get raped. I better not wear that or I'm going to get raped. And it put a lot of pressure on me to make sure I fit in that box of somebody that wouldn't be targeted or lure somebody, or I definitely felt like I needed to watch myself. And then hearing stories of other girls, I was actually just like, oh, what were they wearing? But then I saw an exhibit that somebody had posted, things that the victims were wearing before they got raped. I mean, it was anything but, which nothing like what a hooker or something, nothing provocative, absolutely nothing. Hoodie and jeans, a toddler in a red jumper. It was like nothing like I thought. And that just, the whole thing was like, oh my gosh, it's nothing to do with me. It's nothing to do with what women are doing at all. But I mean, I hate that I thought this, but my mind was just trained. Like, it's what
that's
she
that
did.
Like internalized misogyny.
Yes.
Which I realized that I even had some, even with naming our daughter, because we had this name set aside for a boy. We were gonna have a son. It was like a family name, and then I found out I was having another girl, and I literally cried because I wanted to give this name to my son. And then I felt like I was like praying about it, and God was like, why can't you just give that strong name to your daughter? And it's like, absolutely. And then I like cried. I was like, I'm an idiot. I internalized that. But to your point, so I went to a college. I'm gonna let you talk some too. We're running out of time. Oh my gosh, because we didn't even get to the topic till like 5 minutes ago. One Christian college that I went to, Southwestern Assemblies of God University, went there 1 year. They had a purity week. Mm-hmm. So morning and night, every night was dedicated to purity, sexual purity. Mm-hmm. They gave an altar call for everyone to come forward. And these are required. And they gave you these cards for you to come forward and vow that you were going to stay sexually pure before marriage. Mm-hmm. And they gave you these purity pledge cards, and you would check whether or not you were a virgin or a secondary virgin. So secondary virgin meant that you had already quote unquote messed up and had sex. And so like God was making you like giving you a second chance. I'm not even kidding when someone from the pulpit said that they have heard of God like restoring a girl's hymen before.
Oh my God.
Like, which not even to talk about that you could break your hymen without having sex. Like tampons do that, sidebar. But anyway, It was like insane. So I had internalized all of this. First of all, I thought they were like stupid even at the time. I was still a virgin at the time. But for me, talking about sexual assault, so I was the virgin who ended up being sexually assaulted and losing it that way. Like stopped him, but talk about having all of that shame put on me, and I blamed myself for it. Like purity culture, for the good that it's supposed to do of trying to keep people pure, it puts the total shame on the woman when like it was taken from me. It wasn't even my choice. And I felt all of this shame because of it.
Oh, I hate the way that I ever thought that. I hate that. Like it is, women and children are such a vulnerable population anyways. Like, we don't historically we've not had rights as men. We've not had privileges such as men, and even in today's society, like women don't make as much money as men. Women don't have the same opportunities. And I mean, and just to think that I had ever shamed myself or another woman is disgusting, because I mean, it's nothing that you did. It's nothing, even if you were flirtatious, you didn't ask to be raped, and you did not give consent. So it doesn't matter.
Let's talk about No, I agree with you. I was just going to say we should talk about that even in the marriage bed, because I don't know if y'all saw this. There was some church recently that was getting some flack because they said there's no such thing as marital rape.
Oh, that's bullcrap.
That a man can take it from his wife whenever he wants to because the wife is her. Like it was a church saying that marital rape does not exist.
That's disgusting.
Stop it.
That breaks my heart.
I literally screenshotted it because I was going to be like, I'm blowing this up, and then I haven't yet. But
think about that needs to be addressed. But think about this. Here's something that I didn't even realize until, speaking of counseling, I won't go all the way back down that rabbit hole like we did, but speaking of counseling, my counselor, who was a woman most recently, she explained to me, she goes, think about your wife's perspective. She was like, think about how forever her brain, during the most formative years of her life, she was trained that sex is bad, and that when people have sex, they're bad, and that if you allow people to have sex with you, you're bad, right? And this whole culture that we're talking about, and then all of a sudden, the church tells you that when you get married, you're supposed to flip a switch and love it and be there for your husband anytime he wants it.
Yeah.
And that's where that mentality comes from, is men going into marriages thinking they have just walked into their own porn film. It's insane. And what's sad is, and I'll self-admittedly say this out loud, I never stopped long enough to think about, for years of our marriage, I never stopped long enough to think about the mental trauma and things that she had to go through and process just to trust me to have sex with me. And that sometimes no is not because I hate you, you're ugly, you've put on a few pounds, you're driving me crazy. Sometimes no is I just don't feel like it, and you need to respect me for that.
Well, it's not even that. It's a switch where you bad, 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 and then it's on. Oh, you can now. It's this like requirements. It's like
Yeah.
almost a duty that you're supposed to do. So then like we had a hard time early on. So we together waited to until we got married. But in hindsight, it was just I had like completely shut down like my sexuality because like there was no way we were going to not do it before we got married. And we were engaged at the point. We're like, oh, we're almost there. And everyone's like, don't do it. Don't do it. Our pastor's like, just wait, just wait. And so like, I just completely shut it down. And we've paid the price for that. I mean, obviously the years of purity culture too on both of us, but it's really only been since I had like my second kid that we've been able to start having like good sex. And it's honestly still a struggle because I still think like I still sometimes go back to this mindset of this is wrong or this is sinful or I'm not supposed to really be enjoying this. Like no one ever taught me about female pleasure. Well, it was always about male pleasure.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're right. And there's no education at all in the church about marital sex and what the picture should look like. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
No, the first time I had a decent talk about sex outside of the church was in a sociology class that I took. And she talked about, do you think the couple that's having it every night with somebody different versus somebody who's having it once a month with the same person, like who do you think is more happy? And we discussed that in class. And I was like, I never thought about it like that. So it's not about, quantity or quality, really,
right.
But it is about two people consenting and trusting each other with that part, of their lives. And each person should have a say in it, and each person should, enjoy it. Like it should not be painful. But yeah, it's not a duty. It's not a requirement. You don't punch a card. Like but nobody talks about that, especially in a Christian environment.
Yeah.
Where we can talk about sex without encouraging young people to go have sex.
And yeah.
But young people should be educated from a Christian standpoint.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. Beecher, do you have some thoughts before I chime back in?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I'll just say that I was equally messed up as April going into the marriage on stuff.
Yeah.
I think in middle school, I had a lot of insecurities, and that was right about the time that I gave it all to Jesus, and he was going to just take it all, and there was really no space to talk about things. And so I very much kept like I didn't have a purity ring, but I was very vocal. Like I am waiting till marriage, and like this is my thing, and like this is my identity. And you can look at my dating history, and I frequently broke up with girls over the stupidest reasons right about the time I started to have sexual feelings for them, because I was like, that's wrong. Like, oh no, like it was almost caused anxiety. And so what it caused was, I kept everyone that I dated at arm's length and had very shallow, quick relationships for the most part. And then I meet April, and I really start to fall in love with her, and really fall in love with her, thinking about her all the time. And then, we are making out, and we don't have sex, but we cross some lines that I was like, I swore I was never going to cross. And that led me into a tailspin, because I'm like, oh, I can't marry her. Like I've screwed that up. We've crossed some things I didn't want to cross. And literally, like, that's when I started seeing counseling, was 3 months into dating April, because I'd broken up with everyone that had made, I'd broken up with everyone that had made it to that point before, but I loved April so much. I was like, I don't want to let this one go, but I'm also
let's be honest though. He tried to break up with me.
Yeah.
And I said no.
I was a head case. I was an absolute.
We're not doing that.
I mean, it really. And I just basically, I used purity culture as an excuse to not deal with my insecurities and issues. And I was always just believed I will get married and everything will be worked out if I just wait.
Yeah.
And that's not what happened. It was 8 years of counseling for a lot of things, but that's a big piece, is dealing with these insecurities that I used purity culture and Christianity to hide behind and not deal with.
But the masculinity in the church, the John Wayne culture of the church, taught me that, especially here in, good old boy Oklahoma or whatever, you're going to find you a pretty Oklahoma girl and marry her, and then she's going to do your bidding. or whatever. And you're the, and especially as I started my ministry career in Southern Baptist churches, I remember the first pastor that I served under full time gave her a book called Women in Ministry in the Home. And it was literally telling her like she can teach Sunday school for kids and like, cook for the potluck.
Well, I wanted to go to college, and he was like,
why?
To get your MRS degree.
Yeah.
That's what people say.
Well, and so since she already had it, then she had no reason to go.
He had been there for a year, and he was like, is there problems with Brianna's anatomy?
Gosh.
Like, how come y'all haven't had a baby? And we're like,
yes.
I'm on, like, 3
that's
different
so
birth controls,
invasive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were very invasive about it.
Yeah, well, we need to talk about too, and I know we're running out of time, but I'm going to edit a lot of this out because, fluff. But gender roles in the church, even at marriage conferences, because we've been to a few marriage conferences, and they also, even after you're married, are reinforcing these stereotypes of like, oh, ladies, sometimes don't you get mad when your husband leaves the seat up on the toilet? And people are laughing, and I'm like, this is so stupid. And we actually have found in different marriage things that we kind of have flipped gender roles in certain things. Like he likes cooking, I don't. I brought the Xbox into the marriage.
My man. You brought the exit. That's really good too. But are those actually gender roles? That's the question.
Right, they're not. They're not. But the church treats it like these are what females do. These are what males do.
And honestly caused some strife in our marriage early on because we weren't fitting these roles. That we go to these marriage conferences and they're like, you're supposed to be fitting these. We didn't have strife in areas until after we go to marriage conferences and we come back and like, wait a minute, am I supposed to be doing this? And you're supposed to be doing this because it's been like, and it goes back for me, I feel like growing up, the whole like men are from Mars, women are from Venus, like idea is like, well, this is how women work and this is how men work, and that's just the way it is. It highlights differences when the reality is we are so similar, similar in so many ways, and the idea of breaking it down by gender roles to us in our marriage just seems ridiculous. Well, if I like cooking, I cook. If she wants to go get a job, then great, let's go get a job. We very much try to talk about each thing as a team, and we just treat each other like people.
As a team, equal partners. Yeah. And the more we look at gender, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's just that our brains are actually like the same. And that gender is societal construct. Like society is what defines what is a gender male and roles. What is a female, and these gender roles. Yeah.
Well, and that's been our experience as well, because it was always and I really, it took me a long time, probably 9 years, 10 years of our marriage, which is crazy to say because it hasn't been that long, that I've been willing to accept who each one of us are and our roles that we play. And that is so much different than what my parents taught me, than what the church taught me. And that it's okay and God's not mad about it because he created us that way. And so the fact that she is level-headed and, thinks really well on her feet and operates no lower than, like, if your emotions are scale 0 to 100, she operates no lower than 45 and operates no higher than 55. Her best day's like, it's a good day. And her worst day's like, it's a bad day,
That's exactly how I am.
That's much more higher.
And he's the emotional one.
And I use the entire scale. And it's you know what? I thought for so long, and I had pastors tell me for so long, you need to rein it in. You don't need to be so, hypersensitive and whatever. But like, man, what if God just designed me to be somebody that way? And it's okay as long as it's not negatively affecting my relationship. So I have to keep some of those things in mind. Now, I mean, obviously that's part of the reason I'm on Zoloft, not a sponsor, but they could be, is because of those things, to kind of bring some of that back in and maintain some of that balance. But it's okay. It's okay that I cook every night at our house. It's totally okay.
You have to play to your strengths.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's a
If I had to
team.
cook every night, we would starve.
Right? Oh my God,
Or
we would
be
eat
eating
so much
out,
cereal.
We would be obese.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
right.
no happy medium.
But the thing is that if we really believe what Scripture says and what God says about marriage, that the two became one, then doesn't that mean that we are now one with each other, that we are equal, that we are a team, and that we are in this together?
Mhm.
But why is it we want to say the two becomes one, but you do this stuff, you do that stuff, and you're a little bit more important? That's crazy.
How many fights did we have when we got all of these kiddos? You know, where I was like, "Hey, I need to work. Why don't you stay home? I'll bring home a bigger paycheck than if you went to work and I stayed home." And that was hard for us to balance. Well, who was going to work? Who was going to stay home?
So this was a crazy conversation, and I'm gonna share this because I think it's really important for especially guys out there to understand this. So I have always been kind of like somebody who grinds. Like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes for us to like. For the first part of our marriage, she was in school doing her undergrad. Nursing school is a whole bear of its own. And so like I was, working ministry, but I was finding all these other ways to like create income just to like get us through and make sure that we were good. And so I've always kind of been like, that on the grind guy, whatever. And I remember we entered into this season where she was established in her career, had a good job, had opportunities to go make, good money. And it offended me one time when she said, "Why are you going to go work for X amount of hours for X amount of dollars when I can go work for that same amount of time and make this much more?" What I heard because of the way I was trained by the church and the way I was taught about my role in the church in my dating and in my marriage and everything like that was, I heard belittling. I heard making me small. I heard a challenge to go find ways to make more money for us. What she meant is one of us is going to have to sacrifice time away from our family and kids. Why don't we work smarter, not harder here?
Yeah.
Right? But because we're taught to have that male ego, that we have to be the breadwinner or whatever. The patriarchy. That I was going to go work for $100 when she could make $300 or whatever it was in the same amount of time. And that's not doing us any good. Yeah. And I had to realize, look, you know what? Being the, I've been telling people a lot here lately, I'm the flexible parent. There's like in seasons, there's always the flexible parent, like, oh, the kid's sick at school, somebody's got to go pick him up. It's the flexible parent, right? Like, or whatever. But it took me a long time to be okay with taking that season and being that guy, sadly. And I'm disappointed to say that in myself. But, after we grew out of that in the last couple of years,
we found a good balance.
Yeah, we found a good balance. And our family and our kids are better because of it. Yeah.
I feel like so much of our marriage started to get really good when we stopped putting each other in boxes, whether that be, this is gender roles, or this is what society says, or this is what you have to do with this degree, or it just became, you be you, I'll be me. God brought us together for a reason. I have your back no matter what. You have my back no matter what.
Yes.
And let's do this. Let's do this with us as a team, and not because people are telling us to do X, Y, or Z. And that's I think one of the reasons that we have a really good marriage.
Well, it's been so freeing. I think even beyond just marriage and gender roles, like I feel like Christianity as a whole is all about putting things in boxes and putting ourselves in these prisons that we put our, with all this rules and law that we follow, and don't sin. I feel like most of my Christian walk early on was don't do that, don't sin, just constantly being hyper aware of what not to do, instead of just freeing myself from the religion and from these man-made points. Because where's the freedom in Christ if all we're doing is trying to fit these boxes that I don't think God ever intended us to put us in boxes.
So Joel makes a really good, or mentioned something in the comment thread that I thought was really good. He said, I asked the men in a small group once if they would be okay with their wives making more money than them. Most of them would not be, but they couldn't think of why. And I think it's because, and Beecher, maybe, you can address this too. I feel like we are kind of like, by our parents, by the church, whatever, we were wired that way to think that this is what you were supposed to do. This is how you're supposed to do it. This is, this is the way the structure works, and you do not bend it. You do not break it. This is what you're supposed to do. And it's sad because it causes so much turmoil and strife over extended amounts of time that you could just avoid if we just said, hey, you're going to be together working as a team, and whatever the season calls for, be flexible, be compassionate towards one another, and just do what's best for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with it. I think, not to go into too much personal backstory, but my parents had a marriage where my dad made most of the money and my mom stayed home. They did not have a good marriage. They have a better marriage now, but it was a lot of like me growing up kind of being their counselor. And so I kind of realized early on, I was like, this isn't working. Like, I don't want this. And so I think with April, one of the things I really initially was like, whoa, this girl, it was, when she was telling me she's getting her master's degree and had all these career aspirations and career goals, and I saw her passion for life. And I was like, okay, yeah, I think I was, for whatever reason, since I saw that with my parents of, he's the breadwinner and that's how we make it work. But really it wasn't working. I've never found myself like, if April could make more money than me, I think at any point in our relationship, I would have been like, that's amazing. Go make more money and make sure I get half of it.
So Jay, yeah, I'm gonna need that allowance, girl, in cash.
I'll write you a check.
So Jay Knott weighs. Hey Jay, by the way, Jay, one of our folks at our church, and also a nurse. So anyway, what's up, Jay? Anyway, so he recently went through some health issues, and he's saying that with my bride being the only source of income in our house right now, I'm learning to be more accepting of differentiating roles and shifting roles.
Sometimes it's a season.
Yeah, and I think if we taught more realistic expectations of marriage, not just sex, not just roles, not just money, but the encompassing thing of it. If the church did a better job, wouldn't the four of us be sitting here having a way different conversation?
Would have saved a lot of hardship early on in marriage.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's one thing we're trying to teach our kids. We have two daughters, and our 4-year-old, our oldest, she's kind of getting into the whole like, this is a boy thing and this is a girl thing. And we're just trying to be like, no, like girls can like this and boys can like this. There's no boy things and girl things. There's just things. And if you like it, then you should like it and go with it and stop worrying about whether or not it's a boy thing or a girl thing. Just be you and be unashamedly you.
Yeah. I think that's 1,000% right, is just be who you want to be. And if you love things, then love to be about it and be good at it and try your best. And I think as parents, the best thing that we can do is encourage them in that, and that exploration and that growth in those different things. And I think we can raise a better culture.
That's going back to kind of the Christian dating and stuff. My parents didn't talk about that with me. We didn't go there. I mean, they said we don't really need that. It's not really something we do, but never talked about the, benefits, the problems, the, red flags. Like they, a lot of that came from my friends, which I had really great friends. So thank God for that. But, they didn't give me a sex talk. They didn't give me a, protection or birth control. Like we just didn't talk about that kind of stuff. And my parents are Christian. They're very conservative, but they just weren't going to go there, and they left it up to other people, which, could have been disastrous. Whoever could have come into my life. I think that God definitely protected me in several ways. But I want to change that for our kids.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Andrew in the chat also mentioned, which is a good point, that gender roles in marriage are not just misogynistic and patriarchal, but also are super homophobic and transphobic. If you think about gender roles don't fit gay marriage, and that's maybe just naturally it'll start going away, hopefully.
So we're just going to keep working at it, kids. Also, Andy said, just stop planning on this being an hour. The digressions are my favorite part. That's what he said.
Okay. Well, speaking of I haven't even done ASMR sex stuff yet. So.
Oh my gosh. Sex.
I know.
That was, man.
Well, it's funny you say, Brianna, that you said your parents didn't really talk to you about sex. I feel like even when you're married and you go to marriage conferences, they don't talk to you about sex either.
No.
We went to a marriage conference a couple years ago at our church, and they literally marketed it as like this like really R-rated marriage conference. Like, we're going to talk about stuff that we are not allowed to talk about in church, so come feeling spicy.
Like
Yes. Yeah. And they're like, bring your questions, bring your controversial, like dirty questions, and we're going to talk about them. So be true. So here's the thing. They get up there, and I'm not even kidding you. The woman was like, all right, guys, here's the night. We're going to talk about sex. Like, whispered it, and we're like, and then literally they're like, yeah, sometimes we don't even just do missionary. Sometimes we 69.
Oh my God.
Okay.
But then like that was it. And then in their Q&A, we actually wrote like spicy
pretty,
cute like questions.
We're
We're
like,
like,
this wasn't 2 years ago. We were in. Oh, it's probably
we were still trying to figure out like, is
anything
anything go in like marriage? So we wrote some detailed questions because I'm like, you know what? If you're gonna market it like this, let's at least let's make this awkward.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You said it, so here you go.
So if
also
my dad
total
were here, he'd be like, falling asleep.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
gonna
your
tune
dad.
myself out. Was it over? And then you wake up.
Her dad literally does that during like
if
spicy scenes in movies.
Yeah, somebody starts making out, you just kind of falls asleep.
it's not happening. It's not happening.
You're not gonna see that.
If I don't see it, it never happened.
Anyways, what were some of your spicy questions?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. You were gonna say.
I was just gonna say, total sidebar on this. It's part of this story. The couple that was on stage, the woman had red hair. They both wore green. They both were like 5 foot something, and they all kept talking about how they loved their trip to Ireland. So we're pretty sure they're leprechauns.
Yeah.
And that was the best thing we got out of that entire
We were looking
marriage
around.
conference. We were laughing so hard because we thought they were leprechauns. We're like, well, we're a leprechaun.
But we
marriage
like
conference.
looked around like, is anyone else getting like a leprechaun vibe? And everyone else was just like taking notes, like, oh, this is so informative. Like, we haven't
They were
heard this
probably
100
like,
times.
what is 69? Look up that later.
Yeah. Like all these super prude
Yeah.
Christian couples who are like, I don't want to Google this.
Oh, I know. Well, just spoiler alert, they did not answer our question. They picked like the most basic questions. They were like, I think we asked something about like role playing or cross dressing or something like not normative.
Yeah.
They did not answer it. They were like, no, we're not going to go with that question. They answered something like, it was like, oh, so and so says, what if I'm not in the mood to have sex with my husband? And they're like, well, you know what? Sometimes we do things that we don't want to do.
Oh boy.
And I'm going to be like,
Yeah. But sometimes no means no.
yes. Like, consent. We were at a marriage. This is like 2 years ago. We were at a marriage. We were at a wedding.
We were at this
Someone's wedding.
marriage.
Yeah, we're in a marriage. We're always at it. No,
Every day.
we went to this wedding, and in their vows, the preacher had the wife repeat these vows, and they said they wrote these vows themselves. That I acknowledge that I am the weaker vessel, and I vow to obey my husband. And I was literally like starting to fume in the seats, and Beach was like, April, stop. This is a wedding. Stop it. And I was like, this is misogyny.
Every once in a while, I will call her the weaker vessel, though, just as a total joke, and just to get her
like,
riled up.
Yeah.
Yeah, she punches me. She's not the weaker vessel.
I mean, I'm technically weaker. I haven't like worked out in forever.
No,
but-
I haven't
emotionally
worked
though.
out.
If there was an apocalypse, I would be in a corner
worked out.
crying. She's gonna be the one saving the day. I'm like, you get the gun.
You get the gun.
Oh yeah, I am not the weaker vessel. We had a baby possum in our garage once. He freaked out. He like went and hid in the corner. So I get there like a little tiki torch, and I'm trying to catch this baby possum, like no fear.
Torch.
That's literally how I got it out. And I saved the baby possum, and Beecher was like, oh,
Yeah.
like couldn't handle it.
This is teamwork. I take care of the bugs. She takes care of everything else.
Everything else.
What if it's a really big bug?
I think it's still me, but yeah.
Yeah, he does bugs. I do animals. It's a good trade-off.
Flying squirrels? Question.
You play to your strengths, and that's what's important.
Yes, play to your strengths, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, guys, it's been a lot of fun. We are way
Well over
after,
yes.
but with the like the weird start and all the other stuff, tonight's been fun for sure. So, man, good conversation though. I feel like.
Yeah.
Maybe Brianna and I could start our own podcast. Brianna, you want to start doing it at Rival? I'm just kidding.
The bees.
The bees.
Since you do the
Professor
insects.
Bees.
Professor Bees.
Yes, there we go. See, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
It was great. I've loved being on. Thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you.
And I will be go back to being an awesome fan, commenting next week in the chat.
Love
He's
that.
actually still been commenting. He even while
Did
he
you
was on the
really?
air
Nice.
commented that the chat was better than the show.
I always have Jeremy just give me like a synopsis. I'm like, okay, what happened? Give me the cliff notes.
Well, but
And I'm like, well, did you say this?
yeah. But in your defense, you have been working on your dissertation like every night for the last since this podcast started, and so this is like your first Wednesday of freedom, and you got to come on, so that was good. Worked out great.
Rock star.
So I stole your free time.
Thank you.
So we're gonna go watch Friends now.
Aw.
Yeah, it's our.
That show probably taught me more about sex than my
Yeah, that's
parents.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Than the
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
I learned more from
Yeah.
friends about sex than the church. That's terrible.
true.
Anyway, man, well, we appreciate you guys as always sticking around, hanging out, commenting, being supportive. We love y'all. We're grateful for you. All the love and the support. Go subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't done it yet, just go to pod.co/evangelicalish and you can hit that subscribe button. It'll give you a ton of options, and you can pick your favorite one. Apple, Google, Amazon, Spotify, and a list of others wherever you like to subscribe to your podcast. So we would really appreciate it if you did that. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube channel as well. Getting close to 1,000 followers. So we're super excited about that on YouTube. And, of course, TikTok at Evangelicalish. I think we're at like 15K now on the Evangelicalish
Yeah,
page,
over
right?
15K.
Oh, I almost forgot. You hit 100K this week on your personal
I did.
channel. Yay! Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
So super exciting. April's going to pass me, and that's fine.
No.
Yes.
I think you've been like running with crazy steam the last few weeks.
I've been hitting a good little streak, but I'm nervous though that I'm going to get banned again. Because usually whenever I get a streak, that's when I start getting mass reported.
Yeah. So I've just kind of been consistent.
You're consistent.
Yeah,
yes.
that's what it is.
It's awesome.
So, but anyway, but if you haven't, go subscribe to April at April of Joy. If you would like to subscribe to me, that is Jeremy C Radio on TikTok, and we appreciate that for sure. So until next time, for Beecher and Brianna and April and Paul, who's not here, I'm Jeremy. Love God, love people passionately, no strings attached.